Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Magically Cruising, the cruise podcast where we share our personal cruise tips and reviews to help you make the most out of your next sailing. My name's Kieran. I'm an independent travel agent specializing in all things cruise, Disney, and North America, and I'm joined by my fellow co-host.
Hi, I'm Sarah, and I do it every week. I say I cruise. I do cruise, and I and I write and blog over at Cruising with Kids, which is cruise tips and advice for cruising families.
And today, Sarah, we've kind of teased this episode in the past a couple of times because we have sailed from this port quite a few times. And we always we should have a deep dive conversation about Barcelona as a whole. So today's episode is basically all about kind of tips and what to expect when sailing from Barcelona. So I don't know if you kind of have any initial thoughts, Sarah, on Barcelona. I know you've had a more successful time exploring Barcelona than I've had to all the times I've gone to Barcelona. But yeah, why do you like sailing from Barcelona, I guess, is the first question.
Possibly, I'd also say it was our first port. It wasn't, because our first ports was Southampton with Princess, but our first ports with Royal Caribbean were from Barcelona. And I just fell in love with the city. I mean, this is, 15, 20 years ago. I just find it a really easy port to go from. I think if you're organised, and that's where you go wrong, Kieran, if you're organised, then you can do and see so much. And I mean, we've never been mid-cruise. It's always been pre and post. And I just think it's the perfect way to start your cruise off.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's a great port, and we're obviously going to try and approach it a little bit from an American perspective, but we are ultimately two British cruisers at the end of the day. So we're obviously approaching this very much as British cruisers. And the first thing for me, again, is it's a really short flight. It's like a 2-hour flight from the UK as well. So it's really easy to fly to. It's abundant in service from flights. Like from my local hub, Bristol, we get 2 flights a day with EasyJet. Ryanair is an option. We have other airlines as well, kind of flying there, regularly. So it's really easy to get there, really competitive as well. So I think that's why I love it as well. I know kind of I'm going to be able to get to it quite easily. And there's a lot of hotels available as well at all different budgets. So whether you're looking for someone just to flop for the night and just get a really cheap, less than £100 per night, you can find those places. But then equally, if you want to go somewhere a little bit nicer and you want to be in a nicer area and treat yourself, it's got those options as well. So I think it just makes it really easy to plan and still know that people are going to have a nice time when they're sailing from Barcelona, from just purely a blank logistics of, is it easy to plan a cruise from Barcelona? Yes, definitely.
Yeah. The only thing I'd say that, I don't know if it's changed. I think Uber's not as easy in Barcelona, weirdly. But then you've got taxis everywhere. And I know that on our last transatlantic cruise, and it was probably 80% Americans, and a lot of the Americans firstly got in a panic about pickpocketing, which we'll touch on later. But then a lot of them were quite worried about Uber, because obviously when you're in America, Uber is just fantastic. So, and it was making me get a bit anxious. And obviously Donna lives in Spain, so they said don't even bother with Uber, just get a taxi.
A local,
but what we did at the airport was we booked for a company called Welcome Pickups, and they do transfers.
Yep.
And it probably cost us, I don't know, €15 more to do that. But when we come out the airport, he had a flight number, the guy, it was called Francesco, and he was there and he was waiting and took us off and he was so good, we booked him the next day for the cruise. But then just getting around town, we got taxis, and it's super easy to get about. I mean, obviously you've got what are they called, their trains? The
metros.
Yeah. Which we've never attempted, because taxis they're just there. But it's easy to get about. So, and it's a bit like London, isn't it? In my mind, it's a bit like London, as in my head, I know where if it is in London, I feel like that in Barcelona. I sort of mark it by certain landmarks.
Well, I think we should probably talk about that briefly then, the airport. So the airport, for those that don't know, and this is why Barcelona is so great, is about a 30-ish minute drive, basically, from the airport to the cruise terminal. And the cruise terminal itself is located near an area called World Trade Center, and it's like the marina ultimately as well. So they're the two kind of landmarks, if you want to Google Maps it. That's equally around the center as well. So Las Ramblas is a short walk away from there as well, type of thing. The marina, the Olympic Village. It's all really close to kind of that area. So again, if you wanted to kind of do a city break and be in the city, it's really handy for that. Whereas some of the destinations like Rome, for example, the cruise terminal, Civitavecchia, is a good hour away. and you are nowhere near it type of thing. So you can't really stay in a hotel by the cruise terminal. You're kind of choosing to stay further away to kind of get the Rome city break and then go to the cruise terminal. But then, as you say, taxis are abundant. And yeah, we like to save money in really stupid places, me and Phil, and transfers is one of those places where we have an argument about spending money. So we get the train, and it drives me crazy every time we do it, but we get the train from Barcelona International to the city centre, and it is really easy and really cheap. So it's not that bad. And the train service is actually quite good. It's quite regular. About, say, every 20 or so minutes, you get a direct train in. And I think it's like €11 per person, one way into the city centre. And then normally we'll pick a hotel near the main train station for the overnight. If we're doing an overnight stay, we're just literally going just to kind of stay for the night. There's a really nice hotel we stay in called Abasants, which is by Sants Airport, which is on the main train line to go in. And then the next day, then, as you say, you get the metro, which is, again, really easy connection. Get the last Rambler stop, and it's like a 10-minute walk. Virgin used to dock at World Trade Center back when that was allowed. Large ships aren't allowed to dock there anymore, unfortunately. So they are literally, as you walk to the cruise marina, that big hotel on the waterfront, Virgin used to dock there. So you could just walk straight to the ship, and it was lovely. But unfortunately, that happens less and less now. They're not allowed to do it as much. I think it's like once a month they can do it now. So you're now doing that little peninsula pier. You've got to do what all the other cruise ships are. So I don't know if you want to maybe touch upon that bit as well before we jump into Barcelona as a city. Maybe just talk about logistically how you get from the mainland, I guess, to that cruise pier terminal and how that works.
You know, I've only ever done it in a taxi, so
Oh, have you?
yeah. I think we Princess did it, and there was a shuttle. But yeah, what we tend to do is, I mean, this time we've booked into the Gothic area, but we do different areas every time. So last time, what we tend to do is look on the map and think, right, what is between the airport and the pool, and we go for that, and then look at what's around that to do, and then next time we'll do something. So in my mind, I'm thinking split journey. So we'll go to the hotel, have a meal. So last time we stayed near it's the old Bullring. There is a Spanish name for it. And it's now a massive, oh my God, it's a shopping centre. I'll find it. So it's like an old Bullring, and it's now a shopping centre. It's got all restaurants on the top. So it's up near Avenue Diagonal on the roundabout.
I've heard about it. I haven't been there, but I've heard about it. Yeah, I know where you're on about now.
It's amazing. But it has this thing that you come out and I'm going to find the name. So we stayed at the Occidental 1929, which is just off of Las Arenas, but it's off Avenue Diagonal that way. And it's called Plaça España, and it's an old Bullring. And on the top of it, you've got lots of restaurants and dining. I mean, Chris wouldn't let me stop. It has a cinema, and it's got a whole shopping centre. And he marched me up this escalator. So I was like, oh no, Zara. But yeah, and that was really good because that's in between the port and the airport. And then we walked down to the Ramblers, and that was about a 45-minute walk. So, but we were trying to get our steps in, so we thought, well, let's just do it. And then we got a taxi back to go to the port. So our strategy is always do somewhere different every time, and try to get it so that you've got a taxi there. You're not going out your way, and that works for us.
And it's quite easy to do as well because there's loads of places to stay. So even if, like, we stayed in the H10, I can't remember the marina, sorry, which is the other side of the marina terminal, basically. So we did go past, as you say, so not break that kind of like going back on yourself thing. But it's the other side of the main park, which, again, things we should know the names of, but I don't know the names of. I'll find it now on Google Maps. But there's a really big park that's really lovely to walk in as well. It's where the Arc de Triomphe is.
Do you know, I've never been to that area.
No, it's a really lovely park. And I did post at the time. I was kind of like, does anybody know why most major cities in Europe have a landmark called Arc de Triomphe? Like, obviously, if Paris has one, Barcelona has one, and somewhere else I've been that also has one. Is it a thing? Is it a European thing? What am I missing? I don't know. But I just thought it's odd that there's an Arc de Triomphe in most major European cities, and I don't understand why. But this is the, what's the name of it? I can't pronounce this either. Sorry, my Spanish is awful. Parque de la Ciutadella? I'm sure someone's going to say it and it'd be like really easy. But it's where the Zoo of Barcelona is as well. So there's a really nice like park over there as well, where there's lots of things you can walk through. We went through there one day and it was a really nice time. And our hotel, the H10, sorry, Marina, is just the opposite side of that park. So it's really easy to walk, and then it's right near a metro, so you can get the metro connection then into the rest of the city. And then I think we paid about €20 to get a taxi that day. That was the one time I put my foot down and said, I am not dealing with a metro today, because I knew on that day Virgin was on the peninsula, basically that bit you go over, rather than at World Trade. So just to kind of pick up on that as well. So you can get a taxi straight over. Basically, there's just this long road you have to go over, which you can technically walk on, but it's very long and it's full of very busy traffic. So I wouldn't recommend it, but you see people walking it all the time. But there is a shuttle bus, sorry, you can do, but that is chargeable. So it's just something that people need to be aware of, basically, that the vast majority of the large ocean liners now dock all on the different terminals along the river, along the peninsula, sorry. And while you can walk it, it's not recommended. And I think it was about €3 each way, if I'm right, to get the pier coach. If you take that, you go to World Trade Center and then get the coach.
And that takes you to the bottom of the Ramblers, doesn't it, to the park?
Yeah, pretty much. That roundabout area there where that little park is, the marina front. So you can get it from there. If your ship is docking, which 90% of the ships do dock on all the different terminals, basically, along the pier. And then you just get that. And it is each way. So for some cruise lines, if you're like Virgin docking late, you can drop your suitcases off, but then obviously you're paying each way. So if you drop your suitcases off, you're paying to get there, and then paying to get back out, and then paying to get back in again as well. So just factor that in. Most cruise lines dock early, so you're not going to be doing that back and forth thing, are you really? But just keep that in mind.
I think what we try to do is get early check-in and get up early, do a tour, and then go back to the hotel, get our bags at 11, have a coffee, and then get a taxi to the ship, just because I find it so much easier. And by the time you've got the bus, the metro, if there's a couple of you, or especially if there's a family, it ends up not far off the price of a taxi.
No, honestly, I would 100% always recommend getting a taxi now. It's so easy and so cheap in Barcelona. Not cheap. I wouldn't say cheap. It's just not that big, not expensive. When you paid a couple of grand to go on a cruise, spending €20 to get from your hotel to the cruise ship and not turn up like I have, sweaty, dripping, not very pleasant. Every time I moan about it, and Phil's just like, oh, but it's just really easy. I'm like, I don't care now. I've hit that point in my life where I think I could afford a £20 taxi to get to the cruise ship. So that I put my foot down last time. And again, because we weren't at World Trade, I kind of won the battle. But I think I've convinced him now, because we turned up and we were fresh, we were clean, we weren't sweaty. And I was just like, this is how we should be boarding our premium cruise, not sweaty carrying our suitcases. So I'll let you know on the next cruise if we get a taxi to the ship or if we decide to take public transport. But I'm slowly convincing Phil of the ways of getting taxis and transfers.
And the thing is, I mean, the port itself is huge, isn't it? I mean, the Royal Caribbean terminal, I think, is it their own terminal there? I can't remember now.
No,
But
they're
it's
all
massive.
yeah.
It's massive. I mean, you've got shops when you've gone through security. You go through security. We went through border control as well, but I think that was because it was transatlantic. I mean, it took ages to get through, and we had a suite and we had to go into the front thing. They are huge, so I don't want to be flustered when I get there.
No. I think the terminal can take like 6 to 8 ships type of thing. And we're talking, they can take Oasis of the Seas, they can take Virgin, they can take Celebrity, they take P&O Iona. Like, we're talking 4,000 plus territory ships they can take, and they can take easily 6 to 8 of them. It's a big cruise terminal.
I do love it. It's like going through a cruise car park. It's like that and Miami. I love Miami as well. And that's why, because we're videoing as we're going past. But one thing I always say as well, and I mean, if you're a seasoned cruiser, you know this. If you've never cruised before, then do not make this mistake. Is always go 1 or 2 days before your cruise. Never leave it to the day. And then forget ash cloud. Do you remember the ash cloud?
Yeah, ash cloud. Well, I wasn't in the industry back then, thankfully, but yeah.
We were going on a Barcelona cruise with Donna and Darren, and we'd got to the airport. We must have gone to Heathrow. I think we must have used our air miles and flown down to Heathrow and then got across. And I've messaged Donna and said, right, we're at the airport. And she said, right, we're in the lounge. I'm drinking champagne. And she had an hour earlier flight than us. We got our flight and they didn't get their flight. It was still on the tarmac when we took off. Got to our hotel, still nothing. And they didn't fly them out till the next morning. And because of the ash cloud, and I think it's one of the engine wasn't right on this BA plane, and they nearly missed the cruise. I mean, if they got to Barcelona and they just took them, they went straight to the ship, but they were well stressed. And I mean, that was like going the day before. If a delay happens, you need to have that comfort blanket of getting there.
Got the extra day. It is something that I struggle with quite a lot with customers because they think I'm trying to push the price of their holiday up, and it does add a cost. There's no denying that. But as you say, that margin of error is so narrow flying the morning of, and I just don't like doing it, booking it for customers flying the morning of, because as you say, planes, and more so than ever lately, planes are getting delayed more and more and more. Certain brands are worse for it, and also a schedule change as well. There's a brand in the UK and they're European wide, EasyJet at the moment, and they're the bugbear in my life at the moment for schedule changes. But they'll move their flights. They'll book you a flight. You can book it 11 months out, but they will literally 3 months before you go just go, oh, that flight's not available anymore now. The flight's now 3 p.m. So your 6 o'clock in the morning flight that you should have been able to get without any problem, unfortunately now is flying at 3 p.m. in the evening and the ship's leaving at 5. You're not going to make that ship because they've done the schedule change. Whereas if they'd done the schedule change the day before, yes, you'll be annoyed because you've lost your full day in Barcelona, but you're still going to be there in time to get the ship. And the ship is the main reason why you're going to Barcelona in this conversation, at least anyway.
Well, I mean, look at my last booking. In fact, my last 4 flights have all been
Say, you've been cancelled with weather, haven't you?
What unlucky. So the last EasyJet cancelled completely. No flights that month. Just we're not doing them anymore. So we changed our cruise. Coming back from Fort Lauderdale, delayed. 12 hours sat in the airport. The time before on the way out, delayed. 12 hours late getting, and that was a prime example of, fortunately we were having a week in Disney before, but if we'd have been getting on a cruise the next day, we'd have missed it.
Yeah.
So
it scares me long haul, especially like for us coming to the Americas. Obviously, for Americans coming to Europe is something definitely to consider. Giving yourself a day or 2 for long haul. Definitely, I try my best if I can do. And we're having this debate about our next cruise. We want to fly and do the Disney Treasure from America, and we can only take around about 8-9 days off because of childcare. I say childcare, we don't have a child, have a dog, but child/dog care. We can't go away for too long, and that's the issue. Then it's like, how many days before we go? Then, in case there's an issue with the flight, that we're not then taking up too much of our kind of childcare allowance as well. So it's a tough one, but I would always recommend it definitely rather than flying in the day before if you can justify the cost. I know it's an extra cost. I get it. I totally do. And everyone's budget's different, but if you can justify, if you can afford it, you will be grateful in the long run. Like I had a customer in New York and they weren't there for a cruise. This was a land holiday, but their flight was just cancelled the day of with a really reputable airline that we don't get many issues with, Virgin Atlantic, but it was just cancelled. And because it was peak season, there was no flight available for them until 3 days later. They were stuck in, not stuck. They were happy, like they extended their holiday, but they had no choice. It was either that or they had to go indirect, and they just refused to go indirect. So that's why it was 3 days later. But and they wanted premium is the other issue as well. But the next available flight for what they wanted was 3 days later, and that could just happen to you on your cruise. You just need to be. You can only minimize the risk at the end. You can never stop it from happening, but you can definitely minimize the chances of you missing your cruise, and that is just a plan to be there a bit earlier if you can.
Yeah, and if I could give one bit of advice, if it happens, fill that compensation form in, because
definitely.
It's well, I mean, one of my friends got delayed recently, and he said, "I hope it happens every time." But I think as long as you're chilled about it, it's just you just got to not get stressed and move forward. But once you get to Barcelona, the reason, obviously, that you cruise out of Barcelona is there's so much to do, and it's such an amazing city. So having a day or two to explore, and what we try to do is when we get there, it's drinks, food, chill. But then on the next day, the day of the cruise, or if you've got a full day, there is so much to see. And what we try to do is target somewhere different every time.
Yeah. Well, you've had much more success at this than I have. Like, I didn't, and I know I don't like city breaks because I'm not a planner. I like just to kind of turn up and let the city guide me. And unfortunately, as I'm learning, as I'm getting older, the days of traveling in the 90s when I was a kid and you could just do that quite easily, it isn't a thing anymore. Cities are busier than ever. They're more tourist than ever. So you do need to plan ahead. So don't take my advice. Take Sarah's advice. Plan ahead.
I was really mad the other day because I'm trying to book Sagrada for April, so I've got the time I want. You can't book it yet. And Chris is like, just chill out. It's like, I like to have it booked. But so things we love about Barcelona. Well, first of all, if you're on the ship and getting off the ship and you're going towards into Barcelona, so you go onto the Ramblers. Now, if you bear off right, there's an Irish bar. Don't go in the Irish bar. I mean, you can, but I don't stop places and think, oh, English bar, Irish bar. I'll walk past those.
Yeah.
And if you go right behind that, there's a place called Plaça Reial. And that it's got a little church on there, and it's got a market, and it's got, have you ever been on there? On Plaça Reial? I'm probably saying it wrong, but it's Plaça Reial, Real. And it's got a little town square, and it's got bars and restaurants all the way around, and it is amazing. So yeah, if you are in Barcelona and you stand on the Ramblers, so you're not far from the port, then find that place, because I'll see if I can I'll find a link to the square or the map and put it in the podcast, because we've been loads of times for food, and for that end of Barcelona, it's beautiful. It's just this all, arches, and the restaurants are in arches, so you can sit inside or outside under an arch and watch what's going on. And at night they have singers and all sorts, but in the day they've got markets, and that's lovely.
This is the thing, like we're really bad when we go. We generally see it as a cruise turnaround port, so we use it for the convenience of it being really easy to get a cruise from. So we haven't really planned when we've gone, just down to, as aforementioned, childcare issues. We can't really add on too many extra days. So the last trip where we did, that's why I was really disappointed in myself that I didn't plan ahead and book stuff and plan stuff. We just kind of winged it a bit, and it just backfired in my head a little bit. So it is one of those cities where definitely a bit of research does go a long way, in making sure you're not missing out on things. And it's one of those cities where you do have to book things. And I underestimate even things like Sagrada Familia, which I thought you could just rock up to and, pop in type of thing, like you could with Notre Dame back in the day. You need to be booking well in advance now, don't you?
Yeah. And I mean, we've 3 times tried to go there when we've had other stuff booked and thought, oh, we'll just walk past, and we've never ever got in, which is why I'm booking it this time. But where you tried to go to Park Güell, didn't you? And you couldn't get in there.
Yes. Yeah, which absolute nightmare. And I underestimated it. Again, park, you hear the word park and you think, oh, it's a public park. It's going to be easy to walk in. Not at all. It's very limited because it's a UNESCO. Is it a UNESCO World Heritage Site, isn't it? I'm pretty sure.
I think they all are now, all the Gaudí. Yeah.
So it's a protected site, basically, and they only allow a limited number of people in per day. So the only way you can get into it is to book a day ticket or to book a half-day tour that includes a free pass type of thing to get in there. And I just did no research, and this is my own fault. I was very busy in the lead up to this cruise type of thing and just didn't do any research into any landmarks, and that was the one I wanted to do. And yeah, we turned up assuming it would be fine just to buy an on-the-gate ticket like you can in most parks. And no, unfortunately, it's not a typical park. It is a attraction park where there are limited numbers per day that can get into it. And it's a hard no. It's not one of those like they've all gone, so there's loads of extra space. It's a hard no. We sell X number of tickets a day, and that's it. We sell no more. They don't do capacity shifting or anything like that. It's just once they're gone, they're gone.
And when you say attraction park, it's a UNESCO World Heritage Site, but it just, I want to go back again, but there's so many other things we want to see. But it's mind blowing because originally they built that. Do you know the story of it?
No, not the full details.
Anthony Gaudí built that, and it was meant to be a luxury housing estate, and that was the entrance, the park.
Right.
And you was going to drive through that to get to your houses, and I think maybe some of them would have sat in the grounds, and that was what it was going to be. And then whatever year it was there was a revolution or a war or something, and then they went into a recession, and it all got shelved, and it got made into a park. So that is why. And when you go in there and think, oh my God, can you imagine this being your driveway? It's great, and it's stunning.
You've done a lot more research into this than I have. I know Gaudí obviously is very important, integral to kind of the architecture of Barcelona, but you visited his house, I believe, haven't you? And you know a little bit more about kind of the impact Gaudí had on Barcelona. And if people haven't ever heard about Gaudí, do you feel like you could just briefly explain to people, at least anyway, like why he's so important to Barcelona and the impact he has, I guess, on most of the major landmarks you're going to want to see?
I probably wouldn't be able to do him justice, but he was obviously the architect of his time. So the house we visited, if you're watching on videos behind us, this was the house of I'd have to find all the information. I've got it all wrote down somewhere. We've got a blog post on it. I'll link the blog post to this house because this is called Casa Batlló. So there's 2 Gaudí houses you can visit and do tours. Donna's done both. I've done one. And this house, which is, if you're not watching on video, if you've been through Barcelona, it's the one that's got all the scales on the roof. And the guy that owned the house and originally designed the house was the man that trained Gaudí as an architect. So this guy was
Really?
revolutionary anyway. Yeah, and then the Batlló family, bought the house, and then I'm assuming that's why they commissioned Gaudí to renovate it, and he did the full renovation. So because of Donna's amazing research, because Donna is
She
Mrs.
finds these gems,
Organised.
honestly, it's
Oh,
crazy the things she finds, the little tidbits and facts she finds. Honestly,
she's
very,
brilliant.
very good at it. Yeah.
I mean, my friends like going on holiday with me because they say they just turn up. But when I'm going on holiday with Donna, I'm like, I can relax because Donna does it all. Chris will be like, I said, what we're doing? We're following Donna. She's brilliant. But
Donna knows.
yeah, we went round this house and Donna said, we've got to do the Twilight Tour. And that is, I think with all of these attractions in Barcelona, if you could be up early, and I'm not the earliest riser, but make the effort, get up. And we got there. I mean, you could, the moon was just going in, and it was probably 7:30, 8 o'clock. We were there for when the doors opened, and it's a little bit more expensive, but they do a quieter tour where you can go round and you can see it at that light of day, which is beautiful, go up on the roof. And it just, the house is how it was after when the family lived there. And it just takes you through, and a lot of these Gaudí, what are they called? Attractions. They're not attractions, are they? But
No.
You get like a virtual screen so that you can look and see. It's like there's one in this building. I mean, I'll put the link to the post because I took loads of photos under the podcast, because it just, honestly, it will never leave me, that building. It was incredible. And you hold your camera up at one stage, and because you did it, the inside stair walls to fit nature, and as you hold it up, or was it the sea? Oh yeah, there's all jellyfish swimming. It was amazing.
Really?
It was, oh God, it's incredible. If you go, you've got to do a tour. So we're going to do the same with Sagrada, because as I say, we've seen it from the outside. They say that it will never be finished, or it's not going to be finished maybe in our lifetime.
It's got like another 50 years or so till it's finished, everything. But yeah.
How exciting is that it's still not finished?
Yeah.
And again, do an early tour.
I've never been in it. I've only ever walked past it, type of thing, because obviously you kind of can't miss it. It's so iconic, and it's now, at least anyway, I went originally, God, like 15, maybe 20 years ago was when I originally went, and there were still turrets, but the central turret wasn't under construction then, type of thing, whereas now that is obviously past starting construction. And I think they're saying, it's got another 50, 60, maybe even 80 years yet until it's completed. But it is such an impressive building, and it kind of has so much detail to it. You can just, even from the outside, like, and this is I'm very much a walk and tour person. There's so much to see from the outside, and just doing that full walk around it and seeing more details unravel. And as they are seeing construction, that's actually quite exciting as well, because we got to see one of the turrets, or part of one of the turrets anyway, on the floor next to the building, type of thing, as they're building it. So you got to see that kind of up close and personal, which is obviously a rare thing because it's under construction. You can see that now, whereas normally it's going to be up in the air, type of thing. It's such an iconic building, and I love it as well. If you kind of get on the cruise ship and look back on the city, and I love taking pictures of this, you can see Sagrada Familia just there on this kind of, skyline of the city, type of thing. And it does dominate the skyline of the city from certain perspectives. It's so impressive.
It does. It's stunning. And I can't wait to go inside it. One of our son's friends went recently, and he's 20. And honestly, we saw him in the pub, and he's showing all these pictures, and he was so animated about it. And that's the thing. I mean, Jack, obviously one of our sons, one's a chef, one's an architect's technician. So he's grown up. I mean, he was 10. He was that kid that was watching Grand Designs. He's obsessed with architecture. He's passionate about it. And I think he reaches all ages because it's beautiful. And as you go around Barcelona, and when the boys were tiny, and I think it's the best thing we ever did, was we did one of the bus tours, the hop on, hop off.
Yeah.
Because I think it's like when you go to London, you do the hop on, hop off, and you get your bearings of where everything is.
Yeah.
And we did, and I mean, you could actually do those tours. And I mean, he's everywhere. He's represented everywhere in Barcelona.
I was going to say his artwork is everywhere. So obviously they're like the main highlights, isn't it? The Güell Park, his houses, and Sagrada Familia are kind of the headlines that most people know about and go to. But random buildings, whether or not they're actually designed and built by him, or whether or not they're inspired by his work, are everywhere in Barcelona. You can walk around some random side street and just see like a random arch that you can see that's very much a Gaudí style arch. And it's all marked, it's all labeled. There are guides you can get that show you kind of all the pieces, but there are thousands of pieces throughout the whole of Barcelona that you can find if you just kind of go wandering looking for them. And not just these like signature pieces. His artwork and his art style, at least anyway, could be seen everywhere throughout Barcelona.
And the thing is, as well, I think because they embrace it, the
They're very
Catalonians, and
proud. Yeah.
they're very proud of him. So I mean, when we did this tour, there's a basement, and you've got a virtual tour, and it says don't get in if you get seasick. And I did take a seasick pill because I thought. Anyway, we got Donna was holding onto a pillow with her eyes shut because she's. But it was like, and it was his work. It was like being inside his brain. It was phenomenal. It was. I mean, we had to come out and sit down and have a glass of champagne to get over it. But honestly, it was incredible. But other things, if you're going to Barcelona, which just makes me weep saying this, but my husband and son are all football mad, and they loved the tour at Camp Nou. I mean, I wept at the price of it. It just upset me how expensive it was.
That's the emotional part for you.
Honestly, I felt like I'd been mugged. And I'd said to Jack before he went in, you can have a Barcelona strip. Now, he was 10. He's 24 now.
Yeah.
And it was 124 euros. He was 10.
Yeah.
But they love that. But top tip, if you're like me and don't like football, there is a champagne bar. So you can go up to the champagne bar and have champagne and strawberries while they do the tour. So that's quite good.
That's the thing about Barcelona as well, though. It's got both sides of it. If you want to kind of go on a budget and you just don't want to spend a lot of money and you want to kind of find really cheap bites to eat, loads of kind of places to dine. I say dine, but grab and go stations where you can just grab a bite to eat, like tapas and things like that. There's really budget friendly places to dine. Equally as well, though, if you want to be on the bougier side of Barcelona and you kind of want to go treat yourself, like I say, on champagne lunches and fine dining, equally it also has that side to it as well. It's got some really amazing Michelin star restaurants and dining, but equally you're going to find loads of little hidden gems type of thing. Like we found, I'm going to try and remember the name of it in a second, but we found a really nice, I'm pretty sure it was Brazilian, just because it was one of the few places that was guaranteed to be gluten-free for Phil. So that's how we dine around the world, is it has to be gluten-free, which obviously it has to be because my husband can't eat otherwise, but I've become gluten-free by proxy, basically. But before our last cruise, Phil found it, and I'm pretty sure it was a little Brazilian. Here we go. Right. So it was called Manioca. So Manioca, 100% gluten-free menu, and it was all Brazilian food. Incredible. Honestly, the food was amazing. Yeah. Oh, just, I can't even remember what I ate, but it was like, what was it all on? It's all like Brazilian style meats, but they had fries on there as well with truffle, which anything truffle related is amazing. Rices, you had cured meats, marinated meats, type of thing. Just amazing. A really cool place. I don't know the district it's in. I probably could find out, but by the Olympic Village. Sorry, that's where it was. Again, there's so many little places like that if you do search, and I was surprised at how good the gluten-free is as well. It's not one of those you go somewhere and it's like gluten-free is an afterthought. There are quite a number as well. There's another one we stayed near the other hotel we stayed in previously, which I can't find the name of. I didn't take a note. But they do gluten-free there as well. All gluten-free pizza bases, chicken, all sorts type of thing. So you can eat very well as a gluten-free person in Barcelona, but you just may have to go a little bit off the beaten path.
I think the Spanish are amazing at gluten-free. I mean, they even do gluten-free at McDonald's.
Do they?
Yeah, they have gluten-free burger buns. I've never had one because I won't go to I mean, I haven't been to McDonald's for years because I can't eat it because I'm gluten-free.
Yeah.
But I keep thinking, I can't waste a meal in Barcelona in McDonald's.
Yeah,
but at the same time, I think, God, to be able to have a cheeseburger will be amazing. But yeah, they do gluten-free.
I am one of those really weird and bad tourists where nothing excites me more than seeing what the local McDonald's menu is and what the local Starbucks menu is. Honestly, it's such a weird, like, travel perversion of mine where I'm like, see what the Starbucks menu is or the McDonald's menu and see what the specials are in, like, the regional things. Love it. I'm a junk food fan, though. I have very, like, a proclivity for junk food, and definitely McDonald's and Starbucks are my two weaknesses when traveling.
Do you know, when the kids were little, we'd have a deal that they could do McDonald's one day if they went out for a nice meal at night. And we were always blown away because we had a rule that everybody has to try something new at every meal. So that's how, like, why Joey was eating escargot at 7, and like that rare steak, because it was like, well, if you don't try it, we're not going to McDonald's tomorrow. But I remember going in McDonald's and thinking, "Oh my God, they serve beer." So, can you imagine if they served beer in England? We'd be in a right old state, wouldn't we? For food, I love the Ramblers as well. And if you're for a really amazing hotel, right at the top of the Ramblers, there's a hotel called Casa Fusta, and it's historic. It's in a Gaudí type building. I don't think it maybe was him, but another architect like him. And it's right at the top of the Ramblers, and it's one of the big roundabouts. That might be Avenue Diagonal, but it's got a rooftop bar overlooking the Ramblers right the way down. So it's
Okay.
right at the top.
Nice. Yeah.
And all the restaurants around there are amazing. But if you want a really nice historic hotel, Casa Fusta was incredible.
I say we need to explore more of it, type of thing. It's just annoying for us, whereby it is pretty much the cruise is the reason we're going to Barcelona. So we've never really gone out of our way to spend too much time there to explore kind of more of Barcelona. But the more I'm learning about it as well, the more I realize I barely scratched the surface of Barcelona. There is a degree of this if I'm not a massive city break fan, so I get really kind of not irritable, but it fatigues me quite quickly being around like a really busy, dealing with the metro, dealing with public transport, all that type of stuff. I don't like big built-up cities. And Barcelona has some really lovely parks, and I was quite surprised on our last trip when we walked from Park Güell down to the marina, so it was quite a good hour and a half
Yes.
walk
Cool.
it was. But it was actually quite nice because we broke it up. We stopped off to get like a soft drink here and there and get a nice coffee halfway down. And we stopped off at Sagrada Familia as well along the way. So we did break it up. It wasn't like a continuous hour and a half walk, but I was really pleasantly surprised by the number of open parks there are to kind of walk through or sit through as well. They're not all pretty. They're not all ornate. They're not all kind of, high-end parks, but just lots of open space where the locals are sat having lunch or they, chatting to friends type of thing. I was really taken aback by how much of that space there was in all the different suburbs of Barcelona. So it's just quite nice to have a wander around. And it feels as safe, at least anyway. Obviously, if you're aware of yourself and you're just being careful of how you're packing your belongings on you, I didn't feel unsafe during the daytime walking around at all.
Well, Donna got me this. We're staying next time. We've booked in the Gothic Quarter. And I can't wait for that because we've not stayed there before. But there's a cathedral in there, and when you go up on the roof, again, the views over Barcelona are amazing. So it's just we trying to stay in a different place every time, and we just walk miles. So Donna got me this. If you're on video, you can see it. If not, it's like a thing that goes around your neck over your shoulder, and you attach it into the bottom of your phone case.
Right.
And you put your phone so that you put it over your shoulder so that it's. And I mean, one of the boys was saying to me, "Well, someone would strangle you first trying to get your phone." But you probably,
at least I
oh, you don't
noticed.
put it. Yeah, that's it. But it just means that it's like you've got it in a case. It's attached to you, and it's in your bag attached to you. So hoping that'd be a deterrent because Donna lives in Spain, so she and her other house is in London. So I suppose she sees it more than here. Get mugged by a sheep. That's it. So I think you've got to just be aware. When we were on the cruise last time, I think somebody had a Rolex stolen on the ship. Somebody had their wallet stolen, and there was a few phones. So I think it's being aware, and I'm touch wood aware of everything around me. Probably a bit too much to my detriment, but it's good to if you something like that. If you've got it and you're looking like you hopefully a bit more watching. I'm not saying it's going to be a deterrent, but don't let it put you off enjoying it because that's the thing. You want to enjoy the city, and you can. I mean, as I say, here you'd get mugged by a sheep where we live. That's the level of danger.
It's like anything though, isn't it? We've said it before, and I think we talked about this on your Allure episode because that's obviously where it originally came up. And you're hearing more and more about it in particularly like European cities as well, about just kind of the rise in petty crime and that type of stuff. And obviously, given the current economic situation, the current political situation, the petty crime, unfortunately, will always kind of increase when the economic situation is getting quite bad. But you just have to, as you've said, be aware of yourself and what you're carrying and how you carry your stuff. These people look for tourists, and they look for people who look like they don't know where they're going. So just be mindful of how you're holding your belongings, whether that's, an over-the-shoulder bag or fanny packs in America, bum bags in the UK, over-the-shoulder, what do they call them? Everyday carries, EDC bags, all these bags basically you can kind of have on your person, and be aware of where the pockets are. Don't leave your mobile phone in a loose pocket. don't leave it on a tabletop in an open air bar. There's just all these things that should be common sense, but you're on holiday, you let your guard down thinking you're safe. You just have to be aware of it. But I don't think Barcelona is an unsafe city at all. I don't
No.
hear it of any more crime than happens anywhere else in the world in a major city type of thing. I never once felt I was unsafe, but I was definitely very aware of, like, I wouldn't hold my phone and my coffee in my hand at the same time because I knew I didn't have a proper grip of my phone whilst I was holding my iced coffee at the same time. So I would just be mindful of really silly things like that, if you get me, because that's very easy when you've got a loose grip on your phone for somebody just to bump into you, grab your phone type of thing. It's little small things like that. But I would do that here.
Do you know what though? My kids laugh at me with my case, but again, if you can't see me, loopy case. So it's like a loop.
Yeah.
I mean, I've always had these, but I have them so
Yeah.
I can hang over the edge of, not hang over the edge of a skip, but put my arm over the
Yeah,
edge
no,
of a
I know
skip
it.
inside the kitchen or a building,
Say,
not
I've
to
got a
put
pop
myself at
socket on
risk.
mine as well.
Yeah.
I love a pop
So, but
socket,
then,
and again, it's hanging it over the side of a ship, and your phone's
yeah.
not gonna fall in.
But that with my thing on, I felt okay, and I have it's called PackSafe, the bag, but it's
Mm,
what's it called? The anti-scan. The
yeah.
straps are anti-slash, and then the zip has a little padlock on it.
Mm,
Easy to undo if
yeah.
you need to, but not easy to undo if you're just trying to nick someone's
Yep.
bag. You can't do with a magnet.
Yeah.
So all stuff like that is just precaution.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, don't carry lots of cash on you. Don't be splashing the cash. Don't wear expensive jewelry. I know everybody wants to. They want to look their best and they want to go out and they want to look nice and type of thing and feel nice. But you're not impressing anyone other than thieves when you're wearing your expensive jewelry in the nicest way type of thing. I know that jewelry's personal, but again, it's just, don't go out of your way. I know there's just some people, like, they only ever wear their watches, like you say, their Rolexes when they're on holiday because they want to feel nice and fancy on holiday. But unfortunately, you're just making a target yourself. That's the reality of these things. So it's just, be mindful about where you're wearing your expensive stuff and how you're
Mm.
carrying it, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for people who are showing off they've got expensive things, because that's a telltale sign that you've got expensive stuff on you. Me turning up in my Primark jumper, they're gonna be like, we're going to find £7 on him. Like,
Do you know, I never take my nice handbag ever.
no.
And I never take it because I think I'm singling myself out, which is silly really, because I think I've paid all that money for it. But then I don't take it on holiday because I feel like it's like a beacon to, like, oh, there might be something nice in it.
That is the harsh. That's just, it's so
Mm.
awful, isn't it? That's how it's got, that you don't want to take nice things with you to go nice places because you are unfortunately putting a bit of a radar on yourself,
Yeah.
type of thing. Like, I take my IKEA bag as an IKEA backpack, like that I take everywhere with me when I'm traveling, because I won't miss it if it goes. Whereas my nice, like, designer
Mm.
bags, because they stay with me on the ship in my
Yeah.
cabin, to be honest. They never leave
No.
my cabin because nobody's, well, touch wood, but nobody's going to steal them from my cabin, type of thing.
Is there anywhere that you've been in Barcelona that you want to share?
Like I say, no, not really, because we've had really bad luck with it, type of thing. I do love it though. That's the one thing I will say. Like, I love the fact of how convenient and how easy it is. The fact that the airport is a short distance away and is easily connected by bus, train, by taxi. I love it for that reason. There's plenty of hotels near the cruise terminal, which again is a big boon for me. So you're not having to spend a fortune. And like, again, Rome is incredible, and we can do a whole other episode on kind of Rome, Civitavecchia, and all that type of stuff. But the Rome airport is miles away from both Rome and Civitavecchia. So you've just got a whole extra logistics option there where you're paying hundreds of pounds in taxis and transfers to get between the two of them to start your cruise and end your cruise. The benefit is Rome is incredible. You don't have any of that with Barcelona. It's so easy to get around. Athens is similar as well. Athens, even though Piraeus is quite far away from Athens itself, it's quite easy to get in and out of the cruise terminal and to stay in Athens, because you have to drive through Athens to get to Piraeus. So to stop off in Athens and then go on to Piraeus is quite easy to do. So again, it's a really easy one. Downside to Athens is a 4-hour flight from the UK and further from America as well. So Barcelona there's a reason why it's probably the busiest cruise terminal in Europe. There are so many ships that sail from it because it's just so easy to get flight connections from. It's a really good Central European location, great access to the Med as well. It is such a fantastic cruise turnaround port.
Do you know what though? I'd take Barcelona over Rome anytime.
I would.
It's my favourite European city
Yeah.
to visit. I love it. I love the architecture. I love the people. I think there's so much to do. I don't think we'll ever do it all. And then for shopping, it's incredible. I mean, Spanish. There is no Zara like Spanish Zara for home stuff. And It's just incredible. Um, what's the other place, the makeup place called? Oh, what's that called?
It's not Sephora. Sephora is an international
Yeah,
brand, though, isn't it?
Sephora. Yeah, but
Mhm.
that I mean, years ago they were
They've
only
got
in
their local.
Spain.
They've got their own Spanish makeup as well, don't they? I didn't
Yeah,
realize that, obviously, because I don't wear makeup, but I seem to follow a lot of makeup influencers. I didn't realize though that each country as well, though, Sephora will have regional brands, or there'll be some brands that sell better in Spain and Italy that won't be in the American stores either. I did new concept to me because I obviously don't use makeup.
and Benetton. I mean, you can't get Benetton many places. You
Mm,
can get it. You
yeah.
can get it in Spain. So I just love it for the shopping. I mean, that
Mm,
place we went. Well, let me remind myself of the name again. Um, was incredible. The Las Arenas. I mean,
mm,
that when you go up at night, as I say, you don't want to go to the cinema when you're in Barcelona. There's too much to do, but massive shopping centre, and you can go up to the top and actually look over Barcelona. It's incredible, and the restaurants on the rooftop are phenomenal. The ones that are there, so there is just so much to see and do, and you couldn't get bored.
No, I think you can't think of a better city to start your cruise from, honestly. And again, the access to the Med is a big boon as well, because you go into amazing ports with short distances. So I think it is such a great port. It's one that I want to do more of and spend actual time in it rather than
Mm,
treating it as a cruise terminal. Unfortunately, I treat it at the moment as a cruise terminal, but it's for the aforementioned. We have limited childcare and we won't pay to put our dog in kennels just because he's intact. It's such a boring conversation, but he's intact, so kennels won't take him. So we're very dependent on friends and family to have our dog, and they won't take him for longer than,
mm.
say, 8 nights is the most we've been able to push it. 9 is the absolute limit before we get a really cranky, oh, I'm not having him again. So we're kind of like, let's not push our luck.
Our dog is barred from his grandma's for being so badly behaved.
Really?
Tiny little pug. Yeah, Alf is barred. But I think that what you've got to do is have a strategy with it. So if you're going to think, right, I mean, if you're
Yeah.
coming from America, a lot of the Americans that I've spoken to have gone and spent 3 or 4 nights there,
Yes.
but
Yeah.
you might be coming from Europe or you might be coming and doing a few trips through America. But if you say, right, okay, well, every time I'm going to do something different, you haven't got to do it all in one day. And you can get your hop on a hop off bus. You can see what there is, but you've got all your different areas and just hit somewhere different every time and do a different attraction every time. And so you don't need to do the whole, let's do both Barcelona in two
Yeah.
days. And that's what I keep saying to Chris with, it was very much, he got to a stage where we weren't going on the big ships because he didn't want to go out and do the same old Naples, Rome.
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. But actually, when you start looking at it and thinking, right, well, we haven't done that, we haven't done that. And
Yeah.
every time we go to Naples now, we try to do something different. Actually, you could do that every year and still not see everything.
Absolutely, yeah. And as I've mentioned, like, there's so many different sides to Barcelona. There's not just the one side. Yeah,
Yeah.
you've got the big headline attractions that people want to do, but equally, like, we found a random Brazilian restaurant to dine in. There are loads of off the beaten
Mm,
path, cultural, local things to do. It's not just about the international headlines to do in Barcelona. It's got its own thriving
mm,
culture of like nightlife, bars, restaurant dining.
mm.
There's so much to see and do. Like, that's why I've never felt bad about going, because even if we're only treating it as a cruise terminal in the nicest way, we're still finding amazing restaurants. Like, every time we've gone, we've dined in amazing bakeries for breakfast. We found some incredible,
Mm.
breakfast bakeries where we're getting amazing. I'm getting amazing pastries anyway. Phil's getting coffee. But we're
Yeah.
fine.
Phil's just watching.
I'm like, oh, it's really good. You should try it. But dining, he's finding some great gluten-free restaurants. We're finding, really nice off the beaten path, little cultural cul-de-sacs. Like, I just love, it's a thriving city, and I don't like cities. I need to preface this. I'm not a city break fan, but I don't
No, I love
tire
cities.
of Barcelona. Every time I go to Barcelona, I'm always excited to be there because we always find something new. There's always a new corner or avenue to check. So I have no issues or concerns about visiting Barcelona anytime.
So if you could give what are your top tips for cruising out of Barcelona?
It's definitely try and find a hotel that is close to the terminal is my top advice anyway. And there are loads of hotels for different budgets, and that just makes your trip then the morning of your cruise a lot less stressful then if you can kind of easily get to it with a cheap taxi type of thing. That would be my top one if you're going to do it as I do it, which is it's your pre-cruise stay type of thing. There are some great options for all budgets, whether you want to somewhere really nice and fancy right in the marina front, or you want somewhere that's kind of, let's sub £100 or $100, maybe not $100, maybe less 150 a night. Plenty of options, and you're not compromising on quality for that. Definitely go out for a wander as well, and just kind of obviously keep to the main areas, but have a wander around and find a restaurant to sit in. You're not going to struggle to find good food in Barcelona. There's loads of places. If you just literally go in for a pre-cruise stay, don't do the hotel thing. I know hotels are lovely, and some of the nicer hotels have amazing restaurants and cocktails. Get out, explore on foot, even if it's just around the local area to you. You're guaranteed to find somewhere local, cultural to get some great food.
For me, if I was advising on hotels, wish list is the W, which is the big shaped one down on the pole, which we nearly bought this time and then we decided not to. I can't remember what we've bought this time, but it's quite a nice one. I thought, oh, will treat us. The Novotel Barcelona city centre is amazing. That's got an amazing rooftop bar a bit further out the city. Casa Fusta for historic, right at the top. And then for really, really lovely hotels, but quite good prices, and so less than £150, I would say the Occidental hotels, and there's quite a few of them, and we stayed in that. It was amazing.
Yeah.
If you're going to do, or if you want to see an attraction, book before you go. Book
Yes.
weeks.
Yes.
I mean, you can't. I can't book for April, but I'll hope I'm watching.
Yeah.
But yeah, at least a month before, and get a twilight. Twilight's the morning, isn't it? No, is it?
It depends.
Daybreak.
I mean, it's not. It's,
Daybreak.
yeah, it's. I go. Sometimes they sometimes call them twilight. Normally twilight is evening, but yeah, the dusk kind of
Yeah,
early
it is
morning.
early morning. Yeah, twilight is night, isn't it? But early morning tour, so that you've got the sunrise in, you're first in, and pay a little bit more and have less crowds, and it's definitely worth it. And if you're there for a couple of days, the first thing to do to get your bearings is get on that hop on, hop off bus.
Yeah.
You'll never use it again, but you'll never regret doing that.
The one thing I will say, and I know this because we looked into it, there were actually 2 routes on the hop on, hop off bus as well. You can pay, and it does include both routes. Don't ask me to tell you what's on each route. I can't remember, but basically there are 2 different routes. One of them does kind of the main lower part of the city, so around kind of Sagrada Familia and all kind of the Olympic Village and all that side of it, the marina. And then you can then change to go onto the other line, and it's all part of the same ticket. But that's the one that takes you up to Park Güell, and goes all around kind of the northern side of it. So that one's a bit longer between stuff because everything's a bit more spread out that way. And there's the big park, which I can't remember the name of as well, but there's the big park at the top as well. That's on the other hop on, hop off. But yeah, definitely the hop on, hop off pass will 100% cover off all the main attractions you're going to want to do if you're kind of looking to go and visit the sites at least anyway.
It's brilliant. And we haven't even looked at museums. I mean, we haven't even started on them. There's
No.
loads, but that's I'll be working around them in a couple of years' time.
This is the thing. This is why I love it. And I love going back and seeing, like, just even seeing Sagrada Familia's construction. I love that. And just seeing how things change and how the culture changes, you know, different areas become less popular. Some places become more popular. The park itself is a lovely way to spend. Like, you could spend a good part of the day on a nice day just getting a picnic, go into like one of the convenience stores, getting a load of like meats and cheese and drinks and things like that, and just sitting in the park. It's glorious. It's absolutely glorious. Like on a good day,
Yeah,
good
we've done
weather,
that.
it's beautiful Barcelona. So guys, I know that's a bit of a harebrained kind of view of Barcelona, but this is the great thing about it. There is just so much to see and do in Barcelona that we couldn't do it justice in an hour, but we're hoping we kind of whet your appetite a little bit of the potential for Barcelona. So don't be afraid of it as a cruise terminal. It's a fantastic kind of cruise port turnaround destination. It's also a great jumping off point if you want to go off and explore the rest of Europe as well, because Barcelona is well connected to Spain, France, Italy, the Canaries. If you want to go on further afield, it's a great turnaround airport as well for a multi-center stay as well. So don't be afraid of that. If you are ever interested in booking, if you live in the UK and you kind of want to book a cruise sailing from Barcelona or any I can't speak today, anywhere in the world, I would love to help you do that. You can find me anywhere online under magical-traveler.com, or all my social media is magical TRVLR. And then Sarah, obviously you've mentioned you've got a ton of amazing guides from all the stuff you've actually done that I've missed every time in Barcelona. If the guys want to get tips that are worth following, where's the best place for them to get them?
So you can find us on cruiseandkids.com. It might even be .co.uk. I think we had this conversation the other day. We thought we were .com and we're not. But anyway, and if you go on there, we've got an amazing search feature. Just search Barcelona. I'll put the links to Barcelona at the bottom, and I'll put the Casa Batlló link as well. And I'll find a link to Plaça Reial. We haven't got anything on that, but I'll find a link to Google Maps so that you can find it, because it really is worth hunting down.
And you've got a ton of port guides, and this is what you specialize in as well, type of thing. I'm a really bad port tourist. I just rock up and see what's happening. But if the guys are looking for kind of port guides for most of the Mediterranean cruise terminals as well, cruise ports, you've got guides to pretty much most of the main traveled kind of European ports as well. So if you are an American listener, maybe looking for some kind of tips on things to do or what's achievable, at least anyway, then definitely hunt down Sarah's website, because she's got tons of guides on there of what to do. You've also got like your packing guide, your packing list, and all that type of stuff as well. So when it comes to kind of planning tips anyway, definitely, you know, cruising for all, you're cruising for kids now, aren't you?
No, we're cruising kids. Cruising with kids. We've always been cruising with kids, but had an identity crisis. So our kids are older. We're over that now, midlife crisis. But as Donna, my partner at Cruising with Kids, lives in Spain, she knows a lot of the ports off by heart. So definitely check out the guides, because she's got some incredible ones and she does her research.
Other than that, guys, I hope you've enjoyed this episode, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.